皆さんおはようございます。How are you doing today? お元気でしょうか? Sorry for the little bit of a late start today. Had some family stuff going on and some work stuff. But we are here and ready to get back to Kokoro. So, if you remember correctly, last time we had our main character starting to get to know Sensei a little bit better. Visited his house, found out that he goes monthly to visit a grave of his actually I don't think we know whose grave it is yet. I'm trying to remember. No, it is his friend. Yep. So we know that this is his friend's grave and he visits it monthly. So now our main character is going to continue to visit Sensei at his house. So let's go ahead and listen to that section real quick.
6私はそれから時々先生を訪問するようになった。行くたびに先生は在宅であった。先生に会う度数が重なるにつれて、私はますますしげく先生の玄関へ足を運んだ。けれども、先生の私に対する態度は初めて挨拶をした時も、懇意になったその後も、あまり変わりはなかった。先生はいつも静かであった。ある時は静かすぎて寂しいくらいであった。私は最初から先生には近づきがたい不思議があるように思っていた。それでいてどうしても近づかなければいられないという感じがどこかに強く働いた。こういう感じを先生に対して持っていた者は多くの人のうちであるいは私だけかもしれない。しかし、その私だけには、この直感が後になって、事実の上に証拠立てられたのだから、私は若々しいと言われても、馬鹿げていると笑われても、それを見越した自分の直覚をとにかく頼もしく、また嬉しく思っている。人間を愛しうる人、愛せずにはいられない人、それでいて、自分の懐に入ろうとする者を手を広げて抱きしめることのできない人。これが先生であった。今言った通り、先生は始終静かであった。落ち着いていた。けれども、時として変な曇りがその顔を横切ることがあった。窓に黒い長影が差すように。差すかと思うと、すぐ消えるには消えたが、私が初めてその曇りを先生の眉間に認めたのは、雑司ヶ谷の墓地で不意に先生を呼びかけた時であった。私はその異様の瞬間に、今まで心よく流れていた心臓の潮流をちょっと鈍らせた。しかしそれは単に一時の決体に過ぎなかった。私の心は5分と経たないうちに平素の弾力を回復した。私はそれにに暗そうなこの雲の影を忘れてしまった。ゆくりなくまたそれを思い出させられたのは小春の尽きるに間のないある晩のことであった。
Okay. Alright, so let's start breaking this section down. So we have 私はそれから時々先生を訪問するようになった。So ようになった。We are becoming a certain state. So it turned out I started それから from that time forward, 時々 from time to time, 先生を訪問するようになった。So, from that time forward, I started visiting Sensei from time to time. それから時々先生を訪問するようになった。So this ようになる is become in a certain way in the past tense. So, means we did not used to visit him. Now we are starting to visit him from time to time. So this 訪問するようになった. Okay. And we have 行くたびに. Okay, so this is a good grammar here. たびに. So I'm going to add this to our vocab here. So we have blank たびに, and this means every time you do something. お、ごめんなさい. Every time blank. Blank たびに. So here we have 行くたびに. That is every time we go, right? Oh, interesting. All right, we'll just do this then. Looks like the font or something is weird there. What if I save that? That's better. Okay. So, all right. So we have 行くたびに先生は在宅であった. So 在宅 means at home, to exist in your home. 在宅. So every time I went, Sensei was home. If you remember right, first time we went, Sensei was not home. So, but every other time since, Sensei was home. 先生に会う度数が重なるにつれて、私はますます茂く先生の玄関へ足を運んだ. Okay. So 先生に会う度数. So 度数 is like a number of times. So we have 先生に会う度数. The number of times I met sensei が重なるにつれて. So if you have a verb with につれて, this means as you verb. So here we've got 度数が重なる. So 重なる is when things stack on top of each other. This is also a verb you'll use when you do something over and over and over. So here we have, as the number of times I met sensei continued to stack on top or to increase, and this につれて is as this continued to happen. 私はますます. So ますます is kind of like more and more, increasingly. 茂く. This is with frequently, or with frequency, so frequently. 先生の玄関へ足を運んだ. So 足を運ぶ is kind of a fancy way to say go. You literally carry your feet, or yeah, another way to say this, as they have here, made one's way. So the more times I met sensei, the more frequently I kept going to his genkan, which is the entrance to the Japanese house, right? So I continued to, or as I continued to meet sensei, I kept visiting him more and more and more. けれども先生の私に対する態度は初めて挨拶をした時も、懇意になったその後もあまり変わりはなかった。So, けれども、however, 先生の私に対する態度. So all of this is describing 態度. So 態度 is an attitude or a manner. So 先生の私に対する態度 is sensei's manner towards me, in relation to me. So the way sensei treated me は初めて挨拶をした時も. So this is all modifying 時. So 初めて挨拶をした時, which would be the time I first greeted him. So I first said hi to him, right? Out in the ocean. 時も懇意になったその後も. So 懇意 is like friendship. 懇意になる is to become someone's friend. So 懇意になったその後. So this verb or this word here, this kanji, nowadays it's normally written ato. but nochi pretty much means the same thing, just means afterwards. Nochi is more literary, so you'll see it in a lot of books, or if people are trying to sound fancy, they'll use nochi instead of ato. So the time I first met him and after we became friends, and this mo is saying both of them, so we have a mo here, both of them, 恋になったその後もあんまり変わりはなかった。So あんまり not very, 変わりはない not much a change. So 変わり is a change or a difference. And then this is ない in the past tense. あまり変わりはなかった. There was not much of a difference. So the attitude that Sensei had towards us, 先生の私に対する態度 was not different. あんまり変わりはなかった from the time we first met, 初めて挨拶をした時も and after we became friends, 恋になったその後も Okay, next sentence. We have 先生はいつも静かであった。So 先生はいつも、at all times or always 静かであった。静か was quiet. Sensei was always quiet. 先生はいつも静かであった。ある時は静かすぎて寂しいぐらいであった。So ある時は at certain times 静かすぎて So 静か is quiet すぎる too much. So 静かすぎて was too quiet and it was almost 寂しい So 寂しい is lonely or lonesome. And then this kurai is telling us an amount. So he was so quiet that it seemed lonely. 私は最初から先生には近づきがたい不思議があるように思っていた。So, I, 最初から from the very start, 先生には in 先生、近づきがたい不思議がある。So, 近づく is to approach someone, and then we are connecting this to がたい or very similar to nikui, but gatai is more literary, so 近づきがたい someone who is hard to approach. So 近づきがたい不思議 there's some sort of odd thing, strange thing. So 不思議がある there's some sort of strange thing that makes him hard to approach. 先生には不思議がた or 近づきがたい不思議があるように思っていた。So, yo ni omo is kind of like to have a sense of something. Omo is to think, right? So this yo ni omo is kind of like you have this feeling. You kind of think this way and something is giving that, giving or making you think that way. Aru yo ni omotte ita. それでいて So we are in that state. However, どうしても no matter what, 近づかなければならない。So 近づかなければならない。近づく to approach with the must なければならない here. Actually, it's なければいられない. Sorry. So same kind of thing though. If I don't do it, I will not exist. So it's a very strong must. 近づかなければいられないという感じがSo, という is another way to connect to a noun to say this kind of a thing. So, 感じ being feeling. And say, どうしても近づかなければいられないという感じ。The feeling that I must get closer or approach him no matter what がどこかに強く働いた。So, どこか somewhere どこかに somewhere 強く働いた So 働く is to work, but when forces are at work or are at play, you can also use 働く So somewhere I felt strongly, or there was this some feeling inside of me wasn't work. And what kind of a feeling was that? The feeling that I must approach Sensei at all costs. どうしても近づかなければいられないという感じがどこかに強く働いた。Okay. We have こういう感じを先生に対しても、or 先生に対して持っていたものは、多くの人のうちで、あるいは私だけかもしれない。Okay. So, こういう感じ. Once again, we have you here to describe a noun. So, こういう is this kind of a feeling. を先生に対して持っていたものは. So, もの here is just a way to nounify all of this. So, the thing, or もの can also be a person. So, person who held, this is 持つ in the ている form, past tense, 持っていた. So, held. So, this feeling held towards 先生. 先生に対して持っていたものは. So, the person who felt this kind of feeling towards 先生, 多くの人のうちで, from among many people, 多くの人のうち. So, うち can be from among a group. So, from among a group of a lot of people, あるいは perhaps, or possibly, 私だけかもしれない. So, 私だけ, only me, かもしれない. So, かもしれない, might. I might be the only one who has these feelings towards sensei. Right? しかし、その私だけには、この直感が後になって事実の上に証拠を立てられたのだから、私は若々しいと言われても、馬鹿げてると笑われても、それを見越した自分の直感を、とにかく、頼もしく、また嬉しく思っている。Okay, so しかし、however, I might be the only one who felt this towards sensei. However, その私だけには to only me この直感が後になって eventually, so 後になって or 後になって is after the fact. And 直感 is like an intuition or a sense of something or instinct, right? So this instinct of feeling like I needed to get close to sensei, in the end, 後になって、事実の上に証拠を立てられたのだから、because, so we have this だから here, because in the end, this feeling was, or this intuition, this instinct was, 事実の上に, so 事実 is fact, so 事実の上に, in fact, and then 証拠を立てられた. So 証拠 is evidence, and 立てる is to build. So this is 立てる in the passive voice here. So 証拠を立てられる is for something to be based on evidence. So this instinct that I had that only I had, eventually turned out to be based on the truth. So I had this feeling like I must approach sensei, and in the end, it turned out that there was some merit to my feeling, right? That instinct, there was a reason for it. And then this no dakara, therefore, 私は若々しいと言われても. So 若々しい is young, but it can also be naive. So 私は若々しいと言われても. So 言われる to be said or to be called. And then this is ても. So even if I was called naive, even if someone said I was naive or young, 馬鹿げていると笑われても. And then 笑う is to laugh, but also to laugh at. And then this is in the passive voice. So this can be like, even if I was made fun of, and this to is saying, by saying something. So I was laughed at, people saying I was stupid. 馬鹿げている to be foolish. So even if people said I was naive, or even if people made fun of me for being foolish, それを見越した. So 見越す is to overcome something, or to overlook something. That's why that me there. So 見越した。I looked beyond that. それを見越した自分の直覚。So それを見越した自分 would be me who overlooked this fact. の直覚, this intuition that I had that could overlook these people making fun of me. をとにかく頼もしく頼もしく. So in the end, or finally, 頼もしく. So 頼もしい is something that's reliable. And then this is being turned into an adverb. So 頼もしくまた嬉しく. So felt very reliable and happy. 嬉しく思っている. So this intuition that I had, the intuition of me who had overcome these, or looked past all these people making fun of me for thinking that my thoughts were based in reality, made me feel very reliable. Or tanomoshiku is also with pride. Yeah, comes from tanomoshi, which is reliable, right? But when you have that feeling towards yourself, you have pride in yourself, right? So I guess that makes sense. Tanomoshiku mata ureshiku omotte iru. So you feel like you can rely on yourself and it makes you happy, right? Then we have 人間を愛しうる人。愛せずにはいられない人。それでいて自分の懐に入ろうとするものを手を広げて抱きしめることのできない人。これが先生であった。Okay. So we are saying これが先生であった。This was sensei. So what kind of person was sensei? 人間を愛しうる人. So we have eru or uru in the end of a verb in the ma stem that's saying capable of doing this verb. So 人間を愛しうる人. A person who is capable of loving people or other people, humans, right? 人間を愛し得る人。愛せずにはいられない人。So 愛せず is without. So 愛せずには without loving people いられない。So this is いる in the potential negative. So cannot exist. So this is kind of a cool grammar that is somewhat common. This せずには is without, and then いられない. So you combine these together, it's another way of doing must, right? Most ways of saying must in Japanese involve double negatives. So, I cannot exist without doing this. 愛せずにはいられない人. So, Sensei was a person who was capable of loving people, almost incapable of not loving people. He had to love people. 愛せずにはいられない人. それでいて, and even though that was the case, 自分の懐に入ろうとするものを, so all of this is describing もの. So 自分の懐に入ろうとするもの. So 懐 is actually, I believe in an old kimono, it's like, you know how when you wear a kimono, it's like the cloth folds in like this. I believe the futokoro was like right in here, and it leads into where your body's at, right? So futokoro ni hairou to suru would be someone who's attempting to get very close to you, right? Futokoro ni hairou to suru. Futokoro is also can also be a reference to like how much money you have, because back in the day, people used to carry their wallets in their futokoro, I believe. So here with this mono, the kind of people who approached or tried to get close to Sensei. So even though Sensei was a person who was capable of loving people, who had to love people, the people that tried to approach to him or tried to draw close to him, ところに入ろうとするものを手を広げて、so 手を広げる to open your arms, 抱きしめることのできない人. So, 手を広げて抱きしめる would be open your arms and embrace. So, 手を広げて抱きしめることのできない人. So, all of this is describing hito again. All right. So, ことのできない would be cannot or incapable of doing something. So, even though Sensei loved people, he had to love people. The people that tried to get really close to him, 自分の懐に入ろうとする者を手を広げて抱きしめることができない. He cannot open his arms and embrace even those people that tried to get close to him. And that is what kind of a person he was. So if I were to put this all together, これが先生であった. Sorry. Then I'll put this all together. So this is Sensei. So what was Sensei? A person who loved people. A person who couldn't not love people. And even so, a person who could not open his arms and embrace those who tried to get close to him. これが先生であった. This was the type of person that Sensei was. Okay. All right, so our next paragraph. Now we have 今言った通り. So 通り, if you have a verb in front of 通り, you can actually connect it to a noun to 通り with no. This is just as blank. So 言った通り would be just as I said just now. So as mentioned, as stated. 今言った通り, just as I said, 先生は始終静かであった. So, 始終, you can look at the kanji there. We have start, finish. So, from the start to the finish was shizuka. So, shizuka is quiet. So, from the beginning to the end, at all times, sensei was quiet. 落ち着いていた. So, 落ち着く is to calm down. And then this is in the past tense, teiru form. So, was always calm. 落ち着いていた。けれども、時として変な曇りがその顔を横切ることがあった。So, けれども、even such, or even so, or however, 時として at times, 変な曇り. So remember, 曇り is cloudiness. You can also use this in the weather, right? 今日は曇りです. It's a cloudy day today. And then we have 変な曇り. So there was an odd, 変 is kind of odd or weird. So 変な曇り, an odd cloudiness or shadow, right? がその顔を横切ることがあった. So if we have ことがある, literally this thing exists, right? This can also be used as like, there are times when something happened. So, その顔がその顔を横切る. So, 横切る, if you look at the kanji, horizontally cut. This is to cross or pass over something. So, this strange or peculiar cloudiness or darkness passed over his face. This ことがあった. There were times when this cloudiness or this darkness passed over Sensei's face. 窓に黒い、照影? I think it's 照影. 照影が差すように. And this ように is as if it was something. And then 窓に as if it was in the window. 黒い照影. So 照影, it is 照影, right? Okay. So bird shadow. 照影が差すように. As if a shadow was cast of a bird in a black window, or a black bird in the window. So the way that this darkness crossed or passed through Sensei's face was like as if a bird was flying past a window. 刺すかと思うと, so 刺す, once you think that this shadow has passed. かと思うと, so once you think it's passed, right? This to after 思う means once you think that this is past, すぐ消えるには消えた. So すぐ is right away. 消えるには消えた. が. So 消えるには消えた is like, well, even though you think it was there, it ended up disappearing right away. So even though it was there, 消えるには消えた. When it comes to disappearing, it did disappear. It's kind of a weird way to think of it, but that's how they word this in Japanese. 消えるには消えた. Ga. So, however, right? And that's kind of connecting to our previous thing. So, this strange cloudiness or darkness crossed Sensei's face as though it was a bird's shadow in the window. Once you think it's there, it instantly disappears. Okay. And then, 私が初めてその曇りを先生の眉間に認めたのは、雑司ヶ谷の墓地で、不意に先生を呼びかけた時であった。So, 私が初めてその曇りを So, me, the first time その曇りを先生の眉間に認めたのは So this no here is nounifying all of this. And so here this no is being the time. So the time I recognized or saw, 認める to recognize, to see, or perceive as well. I like that. This cloudiness. So the first time I perceived this cloudiness on Sensei's miken, which is his brow on his forehead, right? The first time I recognized this on Sensei's face was 雑司ヶ谷の墓地で. So 墓地 is the graveyard, and 雑司ヶ谷is the name of the place. So the first time I recognized this was at the graveyard in 雑司ヶ谷, and 不意に先生を呼びかけた時であった. The time, 時であった, that I suddenly, 不意に called Sensei, or called out to Sensei. Sensei を呼びかけた. 呼びかける to call out to. So, the first time I saw this darkness cross Sensei's face was that time that I called out Sensei's name suddenly at the cemetery in 雑司ヶ谷. Then 私はその異様の瞬間に今まで心よく流れていた心臓の潮流をちょっと鈍らせた. So, 私はその異様の瞬間に I, in that 異様の is like odd. 異様の瞬間. 瞬間 is like an instant. So in that instant that I felt something odd, 今まで心よく流れていた心臓の潮流をちょっと鈍らせた. So, 今まで up to that point, 心よく流れていた. So, 心よく is for something to be done pleasantly. So this comes from the e adjective 心よい, kind of like pleasant. And 心よく流れる. So for something to flow pleasantly. And then 心よく流れていた心臓の潮流. So 潮流 is kind of like the way something flows. What's the definition they have here? The ebb, the current. Okay, like that. So the currents of my 心臓, the heart. So the currents of my heart, which had been so pleasantly flowing up to that point, 今まで心よく流れていた心臓の流暢を or 潮流, gosh, I keep reading the other kanji first. 潮流をちょっと鈍らせた. So 鈍らせる, dull or weakened. So the feelings that I had towards Sensei, which up to that point had been very good and pleasant, were kind of dulled in that weird instance when I called out to him and Sensei had this darkness on his face that I recognized. So, しかし、それは単に 一時の決体に過ぎなかった。So, しかし、however, それは that was, so this time when I felt that way, right? All of a sudden, I thought we were pleasant. I thought we were good friends, and then I saw this darkness across Sensei's face. That 単に一時の決体に過ぎなかった。So, 決体 is like, yeah, a disruption or palpitation. Here we're talking about his heart. So I guess you could translate that in a few different ways. And then 単に simply 一時, which is temporary. So one time, 一時, right? So a momentary palpitation or disruption. So, and then に過ぎない. If you want to say something is only this, you can use に過ぎない. So, however, that was only a mere momentary disruption. So those feelings I felt in that instant when Sensei had that darkness on his face, and I said, ooh, I feel something bad. That was only a very momentary thing. And then, 私の心は5分と経たないうちに. So when we have negative うちに here, that means without or before this happened. So 経たないうちに. Tatsu is how you say for time to pass. So 5分と経たないうちに before 5 minutes had passed. And then 私の心は, so my heart, before the time that 5 minutes had passed, 平素の弾力を回復した. So the original 平素の弾力. 弾力 is like flexibility. So the original resilience, spring, bounce, flexibility of my heart had returned, 回復した, within 5 minutes. So I called out to Sensei. Sensei wasn't expecting it. He had this darkness on his face. Like, what the heck are you doing here? And then, but within 5 minutes, that had all gone away, and I was pleasantly enjoying my time. Right. 私はそれぎり, from that time on, 暗そうなこの曇りの影を忘れてしまった. So from that time, 暗そうなこの曇り. So 暗そうな seemed very dark. 暗そうなこの曇りの影. So 影 is shade or shadow. And then connected to 曇り, the shade or shadow of this cloud on Sensei's face. を忘れてしまった. So 忘れる, to forget. And it's a negative thing, so we can do てしまう in the past tense here. その影を忘れてしまった. I completely forgot about this darkness that I saw on Sensei's face from that time forward. ゆっくりなくまたそれを思い出させられたのは. So once again we have のは the time that I was reminded of. 思い出させられたのは this cloudiness. All of a sudden, ゆっくりなくまた again, また is again. So all of a sudden, again, when I was reminded of this, was 小春の尽きるに間のないある晩のことであった. So 小春の尽きる. So 尽きる for something to be completely exhausted or over. So 小春 is the late autumn, and then 尽きる would be to pass that. And then 間のない is not very much space in between, right? So 小春の尽きるに間のない would be, since we're connecting to a noun here, ある晩, a certain night. There was a certain night that had not passed much since late autumn, right? Near the close of late autumn. のことであった. So the time I was reminded of this again, out of the blue, was on a certain night, close to the end of late autumn. Okay. Let's see. We'll see if I have enough time to do another one today. It looks like I do. So, all right, let's do one more section today. Because, yeah, this is a long book. Getting through it in Japanese takes some time. So we'll try to get through as many sections as we can in a day. All right, so next section here. Give me 1 second. Okay, audio is set. Let's go.
先生と話していた私は、ふと先生がわざわざ注意してくれたイチョウの胎児を目の前に思い浮かべた。勘定してみると、先生が毎月霊として墓参に行く日が、それからちょうど3日目にあたっていた。その3日目は、私の家業が昼で終わる楽な日であった。私は先生に向かってこう言った。先生、雑司ヶ谷のイチョウはもう散ってしまったでしょうか。まだ空坊主にはならないでしょう。先生はそう答えながら私の顔を見守った。そしてそこからしばし目を離さなかった。私はすぐ言った。今度お墓参りにいらっしゃるときにお供をしてもようござんすか。私は先生と一緒にあそこいらが散歩してみたい。私は墓参りに行くんで散歩に行くんじゃないですよ。しかしついでに散歩をなすったらちょうどいいじゃありませんか。先生は何とも答えなかった。しばらくしてから、私のは本当の墓参りだけなんだからと言って、どこまでも墓参と散歩を切り離そうとする風に見えた。私と行きたくない口実だかなんだか、私にはその時の先生がいかにも子供らしくて変に思われた。私はなおと先へ出る気になった。じゃあお墓参りでもいいから一緒に連れて行ってください。私もお墓参りをしますから。実際私には墓参と散歩との区別がほとんど無意味のように思われたのである。すると先生の眉がちょっと曇った。目の内にも異様の光が出た。それは迷惑とも嫌悪とも畏怖とも片付けられないかすかな不安らしいものであった。私はたちまち雑司ヶ谷で先生と呼びかけた時の記憶を強く思い出した。二つの表情は全く同じだったのである。私は、と先生が言った。私はあなたに話すことのできないある理由があって、人と一緒にあそこへ墓参りには行きたくないのです。自分の妻さえまだ連れて行ったことがないのです。
Okay, cool. Oh, here we go. So, yeah, the time that we were reminded again of this darkness across Sensei's face was this certain evening. And now we were on this evening. So, 先生と話していた私は So, me, who was talking to Sensei, ふと先生がわざわざ注意してくれたイチョウの体重を目の前に思い浮かべた。So, me who was talking to Sensei, ふと, like all of a sudden, something just happened. ふと。先生がわざわざ注意してくれた。So, 注意する is to give note to. It's also used to like be careful of something. Let's add that into the vocab. This is a very common word in Japanese. If you're like at the train station and stuff, they will say 注意してください, 注意してください all the time. So please be careful of something. But it can also be to take note of something. So in this case, it actually is that to take note of something. 注意する. Take note, to be careful. Okay. So that is there now. So wazawaza. So wazawaza is when something goes out of their way to do something. So here, sensei ga wazawaza chui shite kureta. So we have a noun here that sensei specifically went out of his way to note to us or tell us about, call attention to. Ichou no taiju. So ichou is the ginkgo tree, I believe. Yeah. And then taiju, you can see this is a large tree. So the large ginkgo tree o me no mae ni omoi ukabeta. So omoi ukaberu is when something kind of pops into your mind. In Japanese, you think about it and it floats up. So omoi ukaberu, omoi ukabeta. So I was talking to Sensei and I was all of a sudden reminded of, and then we have me no mae ni, sorry. So in front of your eyes, right? Me no mae ni omoi ukabeta. I all of a sudden had this almost like a vision, right? Of the tree, the ginkgo tree that Sensei went out of his way to tell me about when I met him in the graveyard, right? Kanjou shite miru to. Kanjou shite miru is like when you count it or when you think about it, or when you figured or reckon. And then te miru to, upon doing this action, sensei ga maigetsu or maitsuki. Maitsuki is more of a colloquial spoken form. This is maigetsu because it's literary. Maigetsu rei to shite. Rei to shite is kind of like as a rule. So he did this every month as a rule, right? So rei to shite. Bosan ni iku hi ga. So bosan and hakamairi, same thing. This is just the Chinese or the onyomi of these two characters to visit a grave. Or hakamairi would be the kunyomi of both of those characters. Ni iku hi ga, so the day that Sensei went to visit graves as a rule every month. Ga, so this day where he would visit the graves. それからちょうど3日目に当たっていた. So, ataru is for something to hit or to fall upon. So, this day where Sensei went every month to visit graves fell upon 3日目, so the third day, and then それから from this time, or from that time, ちょうど just 3 days. So, the day that Sensei would go and visit the day from this certain day that I was talking to Sensei. And その3日目は this third day from that day, 私の家業が昼で終える楽な日であった. So this third day was a day, 日であった, in which 私の家業 is classes. I've never heard this word used in a modern context. This must be an older school term. Maybe it's not, but I just have never heard it. So, 私の家業が昼で終える. So, 終える is for something to end. And then 昼 would be at the noon. So, my classes ended at noon. And 楽な日. So, 楽 is a very convenient day or an easy day. So, a day where his classes ended at noon would be a nice day, right? Yay, I don't have to do classes all day. So this third day, the day that we were talking, was a day that was very open for me because my classes ended at noon. 私は先生に向かってこう言った. So, 向かう is to face or to direct something towards someone. So, 向かって言う is when you speak to someone. So, 先生に向かってこう言った. I told this or said this thing to 先生. 先生、雑司ヶ谷のイチョウはもう散ってしまったでしょうか? So, 先生、雑司ヶ谷のイチョウ. So, 雑司ヶ谷のイチョウ. イチョウ is the ginkgo, right? So, the ginkgo tree in 雑司ヶ谷はもう散ってしまったでしょうか? So, 散る is for something to fall, very commonly used with leaves on trees. have the leaves on this ginkgo tree already もう散ってしまったでしょうか? So, てしまう completely. Have the leaves on this tree completely fallen off? And then this でしょうか is a polite way to ask, would you happen to know? Or I wonder if. But you're asking someone, right? So, would you happen to know if the leaves of the ginkgo tree in Zoshigaya have already fallen off? まだ空坊主にはならないでしょう. So, まだ, still or not yet. 空坊主, so 空坊主 is for something to be entirely bare. 空坊主 literally means a bald monk. So, 空, and then this is 空 is empty. So, 空坊主, that's one way you can talk about trees with no leaves. They're a bald monk. まだ空坊主にはならないでしょう. So, でしょう is probably, and ならない probably hasn't become a completely bald monk or a completely empty tree with no leaves. Still, probably not that. And then 先生はそう答えながら私の顔を見守った. So, 答える to answer. So, while he was giving this answer, そう答えながら, nagara is while doing this. While giving this answer, 私の顔を見守った. So, 見守る is to like not let your eyes off something. So, 見守る is like to watch over. So here they have, watched intently, kept in sight. So he was looking at 私の顔, my face. So he said, it's still probably not completely empty or a bare tree. While he's saying this, he was looking right at me. Didn't let his eyes go. そうしてそこからしばし目を離さなかった. Actually, another way, 目を離す is to let your eyes go somewhere else. Literally to let the eyes wander, right? But this is in the negative, and a very common way to say not let your eyes off something. 目を離さない. So, そうしてそこから from that time, しばし for a while, for a short while, 目を離さなかった. He did not let his eyes off of me. He was just staring at me. 私はすぐ言った. So, すぐ, right away, I said. 私はすぐ言った. 今度お墓参りにいらっしゃるときにお供をしてもよござんすか? So, 今度, the next time, お墓参りにいらっしゃるとき. So all of this is modifying toki here. So we're talking about a specific time. What time is it? 今度, the next time you いらっしゃる. So いらっしゃる is the honorific of 行く. So he's being very polite to Sensei. The next time you go to Hakamairi, to visit the graves, お供をする. So お供をして. お供 is to accompany someone. お供をしても. So お供をしてもいい. So よござんすか is an older way of saying いいですか? So it comes from よろしゅうございますか? Shortened. So, would it be okay if I joined you? お供をしてもよござんすか? よろしゅうございますか? Or いいですか? お供をしてもいいですか? May I join you next time you go to visit the graves? 私は先生と一緒にあそこいらが散歩してみたい. So 私は I 先生と一緒に along with you, along with Sensei, と一緒に together with, あそこいら that area が散歩してみたい. 散歩する is to take a walk, and then this is being attached to てみる. I would like to give that a try and see how it goes. And then the tie form, like to. So I would like to walk around that area, have a nice walk around that area with you. 私は墓参りに行くんで、散歩に行くんじゃないですよ. So this んで is like ので. So, the reason for something. So, because I go there for hakamairi. I go there to visit a grave. 散歩に行くんじゃないです. So, んじゃない is, that is not the kind of thing that it is. So, 散歩に行くんじゃない. That is not what I do. I don't go just to have a walk. 散歩に行くんじゃないですよ. It's not what kind of a thing it is. I don't go just for walking. I go to visit a grave. Then we have our main character talking again. しかし、ついでに散歩をなすったらちょうどいいじゃありませんか. So, しかし, however, or but, ついでに is when you're doing something, well, while you're at it. ついでに is kind of like while you're at it. ついでに散歩をなすったら. So, なする, I believe this is a form of なさる, which is the honorific of to する, or to do, so to have a walk. And this tara is if you were to do that. So if you were to have a nice walk while you're at it, while you're at the, while you're visiting the grave, ちょうどいいじゃありませんか. Wouldn't that be perfect? ちょうど is like just, and then いい. Wouldn't that be just right? Wouldn't that be a great time to go for a walk while you're visiting your grave? And then じゃありませんか? That's the way like, wouldn't it be? Yeah. So, ちょうどいいじゃありませんか. Wouldn't that be great if you would do a walk along with the visiting the graves? And then 先生は何とも答えなかった. So, 先生答える in the negative here. So, did not respond anything. 何とも did not respond at all. しばらくしてから So, しばらくする for time to pass a little bit. And then てから once a little bit of time had passed. しばらくしてから。私のは本当の墓参りだけなんだから。So, mine, so the thing I do, 私のは the thing I do, 本当の墓参りだけなんだから。So, 本当の墓参り would be real, really visiting graves. 墓参りだけなんだから。So, the thing that I do is only visiting graves, and really visiting graves. And then this だから is giving a reasoning, right? I don't want you to come with me because when I go, it's really visiting graves. と言って is something that Sensei said. So after a while, Sensei said, well, I only go to visit the graves and have a real grave visiting experience. Is kind of the nuance that gives off. He said this, and then どこまでも母さんの散歩を切り離そうとする風に見えた. So, he said this, and then どこまでも no matter what, or to any extent, 母さんと散歩を切り離す. So, 切り離す is to separate something. So, what are we separating? We have 母さん, which is the hakamairi, the visiting the graves, and 散歩. So, he wanted to separate going for a walk and visiting a grave. を切り離そうとする風に見えた. So, 風に見えた is appeared in a certain way. So, 見える when something appears in a certain way or seems a certain way. And then this 風に it appeared to be in a certain way. And then what was the way? 母さんと散歩を切り離そうとする. So he was attempting to do something. When we have 切り離す with this をとする grammar, it's like there's an attempt to do this thing. So he said, I only go to really visit graves and to have a real grave visiting experience. He said this, and to me, it seemed like no matter what, he wanted to separate normal walk and visiting graves. And then 私と行きたくない口実だがなんだか私には その時の先生がいかにも子供らしくて変に思われた。So, 私と行きたくない口実。口実 is like an excuse.The reality of the mouth reality, 口実, an excuse. だか、なんだか. So this noun だか、なんだか. I'm not sure if it's this or that. So I'm not sure if it was just some excuse that he was saying he didn't want to go with me. 私と行きたくない口実. Just an excuse because he didn't want to go with me or something like that.私はその時の先生が to me、その時の先生が Sensei at that time いかにも like いかにも is kind of like by all means 子供らしくて so 子供らしい is childish and then this is the、te form of an e adjective so 子供らしくてHe seemed very childish, and then 変に思われた. And it seemed odd. So I was inviting, or I was saying, can I go with you to visit the grave? Sensei said, I only visit graves. I don't want to go for a walk. And our character thought, okay, that's really weird that he seems very childish, that he wants to separate going for a walk and visiting graves. And it seemed very odd. 変に思われた. I thought it was very odd. And then 私はなおと先へ出る気になった. So when you have a verb 気になる, this is like you have the feeling that you want to do something. So 先へ出る is to move forward. So I thought it was very childish of Sensei to say that and feel that way. So なおと I felt like I wanted to move forward even more. So I really wanted to go with Sensei on this walk, or to at least go with him to visit the graves. So then our main character says, じゃあ、お墓参りでもいいから一緒に連れて行ってください. So, じゃあ, okay then. お墓参りでもいいから. Fine, visiting graves, that's okay. Therefore, 一緒に連れて行ってください. Please take me with you. So, fine, we'll call it visiting graves. We won't go for a walk. We'll just visit graves. 一緒に連れて行ってください. We'll 連れて行く to take someone with you. So, even if we're just going to visit graves, please take me with you. 私もお墓参りをしますから. So, giving our reason why you should bring me with this から here. 私もお墓参りをします. So, I will also go visit the grave with you. Let's not do a walk. We'll just visit graves. I want to go with you. And then 実際, in actuality, or in truth, 墓参と散歩との区別がほとんど無意味のように思われたのである. So, in actuality, to me, 墓参と散歩との区別 is distinction, or difference. So, 墓参と散歩との区別 would be the difference, or the distinction between visiting graves and a walk がほとんど無意味. So, ほとんど is almost completely. 無意味, no meaning. So, the distinction between going for a walk and visiting graves was pretty much the same thing to me. There was no reason why they were different. のように思われたのである. So, のである, that's the state I was in. I thought that のように思われる. Thought in this manner. So I thought there was no real distinction between visiting graves and going for a walk. すると, then, 先生の眉がちょっと曇った. So 先生の眉, his eyebrows or his brows が ちょっと曇った。So, ちょっと slightly, 曇る got dark, clouded up again. 目の内にも硫黄の光が出た。So, 硫黄の a very strange or peculiar 光が出た。Hikari is light, and then deru to come out. So they shone in this weird light. And then me no uchi ni mo would be in his eyes. So there was, in his eyes, there was also this very weird light. それは迷惑とも、嫌悪とも、畏怖とも片付けられないかすかな不安らしいものであった。So, それは this light that we're talking about. So, 迷惑とも嫌悪とも畏怖とも. So, was not annoyance, 迷惑 to cause someone trouble or annoyance. Was not annoyance or 嫌悪 or hatred or revulsion or 畏怖, fear. とも. So, if we have multiple things, not this, not this, not this.It was not annoyance, it was not revulsion, it was not fear. 片付けられない. So 片付ける is to clean something up. But when something is kind of like hard to pin down, you can't really tell what it is, you can say 片付けられない. Think of like, I want to clean up a room, but I don't know where to put this thing. You can't clean it up.Kind of the feeling that it gives here. So what's the definition they have for 片付けられない? Cannot be distilled to, right? So I can't say it was necessarily annoyance or hatred or fear. 片付けられない わずかな a slight, or no, sorry, not わずか, this is かすかな a vague or indistinct 不安 is like uneasiness.What do they have here? Yeah, anxiety, uneasiness. らしいもの. So らしい, something that seems like that. So this light seemed to be some kind of vague uneasiness that was neither annoyance or hatred or fear. So,It's this weird kind of light. I couldn't really read what kind of emotion it was. And then, 私はたちまち, so right away, instantly, 私はたちまち雑司ヶ谷で先生と呼びかけた時の記憶を強く思い起こした. So, 思い起こす is to recall something, and 強く in a very deep or strong manner. So,I was very quickly or strongly reminded of the kyoku, the memory, when 雑司ヶ谷で先生と呼びかけたとき. So this is all modifying kyoku here. So at once, I was reminded of the memory when I had called Sensei at 雑司ヶ谷. I said, Sensei, 雑司ヶ谷で先生と呼びかけたとき. Remember, 呼びかける is to call out to someone. の記憶を強く思い起こした。二つの表情は全く同じだったのである。So, 二つの表情, those two expressions, the one on that day and the one today, は全く同じだったのである。のである is telling us that state. So what state is it?Those two expressions were exactly the same. 全く completely 同じ the same. Okay. And then we have Sensei's reply, and we will end with this today. So, 私はと先生が言った. So, Sensei said, 私は Well, me. 私はあなたに話すことのできないある理由があって、人と一緒にあそこへ、ごめんなさい。あそこへ墓参りには行きたくないのです。そう、私はあなたに話すことのできないある理由。All of this is modifying 理由 here. あなたに話すことのできないある理由。A certain reason, 理由 being the reason here. 話すことのできない。話す being to talk or to tell. And then ことのできない something I cannot tell you. You can attach ことができない to a verb, but then if you're then attaching that to another noun, you'll use ことのできない. So, あなたに話すことのできないある理由 be a certain reason that I cannot tell you about. 理由があって So there's a certain reason that I can't tell you about, which is why 人と一緒にあそこへ墓参りには行きたくないのです。So, normally this would be written as 他, but this is 人 in this case because they specifically write 人 above it. And 人と一緒に together with someone else あそこへ墓参りに行きたくないです。So, あそこへ to that place 墓参りに行きたくないのです。墓参り to visit graves. 行きたい to want to go in the negative. 行きたくないのです。So, I don't want to go with anyone else to visit this grave, and there is a reason that I cannot tell you. 自分の妻さえまだ連れて行ったことがないのです。So actually I believe this is another reading of 妻 sai. Yeah, okay. So nowadays you will not really use this way of referring to your wife, but Sensei does here. So normally by itself this kanji would just read 妻 wife. So 自分の妻さえ. So さえ is like even. So even my own wife 自分の妻さえまだ連れて行ったことがないのです。So 連れて行く to take 連れて行ったことがない I have not even taken. And then this のです giving a reason, right? But I don't take people to this grave, and there's a reason that I can't tell you. I haven't even brought my own wife. 自分の妻さえまだ連れて行ったことがないのです。So this のです I'm not going to bring you. I haven't even brought my own wife. This のです gives us that reason. So cool. All right. Well, there are our two sections for the day. Once again, sorry for being a little bit later today. Hopefully you are liking these videos. If you have any recommendations on how I can make these streams and videos better, I am considering maybe making or cutting down the streams into shorter videos that focuses on the actual content in the book. I might also just stop doing streams and just make some videos of me describing them. But if there are people who visit and want to talk while we're going through things, I also like the live streaming format as well. But if you have any opinions on that, let me know. And I will plan on seeing you at the next stream. Hopefully you're enjoying Kokoro. I know I really like this, so let's see how far we can get by the end of the year. Arigatou gozaimashita. Thanks so much for joining me, and I will plan on seeing